Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to this newly adopted last minute of the season show. Hey, look, it's playoff times. We don't want to keep any 49ers or NFL conversation away from you. I don't care what time of the year is. Honestly, this is probably the best time of the year to talk football because now we could get the Panthers out of the picture. We could get the Bears out of the picture. We could get all those other guys, Cardinals, NFC West rival. We could get them out of the picture, and now we could focus on what really matters. And for the 49ers, what really matters is getting that sixth Lombardi. Hey, I have not been old enough to have a beer to watch a 49ers Super Bowl victory. I would love that for the first time in my life. My dad's spoiled. He has all of those. I don't. I want one. To not hold the co-host anymore, Akash, how's everything doing? Give us an update, guy.
I'm doing fantastic, man. First off, appreciate you for bringing me on. I am super, super pumped. Mostly just because the Niners look like the team to beat. They are the Super Bowl betting favorites coming into the playoffs. Obviously not playing this weekend, Wild Card weekend, and I'm just excited to get into it with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's getting 2019 feels without having the game this weekend. And the better thing than 2019 is the 2 seed is playing, which is the Dallas Cowboys. I was thinking that to myself this morning, like
Yeah,
Cowboys would have had a bye this weekend, but they're
that's true.
playing for a potential NFC championship matchup. That's good for the 49ers because now that will be their third game,
Yeah.
however many weeks in a row for the Cowboys compared to the 49ers having a bye 2 weeks ago. But let's not skip two ahead. Today was announced the All Pro honors. And the 49ers had 7 players selected, and 5 of them in the first team All Pro: Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Juszczyk, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Fred Warner. Two of those were unanimous in Christian McCaffrey as well as Fred Warner. Salute to those guys for holding the standard. And then second team All Pro. Brandon Aiyuk said, "Don't talk to me about the Pro Bowl anymore. I am a MFing All Pro." So that's going to help out for his contract terms. I know you probably want to speak on that here in 2 seconds. And then Charvarius Ward. Look at that. Early on in the season, there was 49ers have no corners. They have nobody that could cover anyone. Well, look at we got a Pro Bowler that is also an All Pro in Charvarius Ward, Mooney Ward, as some of you may have known him. That Look at that cornerback signing. Like we're far on from the Nate Clemens signing coming over from the
A
Buffalo Bills back in the
long
day.
time ago.
Yeah, this cornerback signing has worked out with Charvarius Ward. Akash, you sent out a tweet earlier today about the previous All Pros and what that has led to in previous years. Go ahead and basically put that in verbal words.
It's pretty crazy when you look at it, how well the 49ers have drafted since John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have gotten here. And not just drafted, starters or fringe Pro Bowlers. I mean, they're drafting like first team all pro guys in different rounds of the draft. I mean, George Kittle was the first one. In 18, he got named to the all pro team. And I think in 19, he was the first team all pro. Then he got extended in 2020. He's going to be here for a while. Then the following year, Fred Warner, first team All Pro in 2020. He's a 3-time All Pro now. He obviously got extended. Then Deebo Samuel, after that superhero 2021 season, he was named to the All Pro team as a wide receiver, and then he went on to get extended, obviously. Then last year was Nick Bosa, who Defensive Player of the Year, first team All Pro. Then obviously he gets the massive contract extension, highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. And then this year it's Brandon Aiyuk's turn, who's been named a second team All Pro, absolutely deserving. I think when it came to the Pro Bowl, like you mentioned, he just didn't have the volume, right? He didn't have the number of targets that a CD Lamb and AJ Brown and Puka Nacua had. And so ultimately that was held against him. Even though the efficiency was there, he was racking up a ton of yards given the amount of targets and routes he was running. Obviously, one of the better blocking receivers in the NFL, just a complete player. I'm happy for him. I think you could kind of tell if you listen to him during his press conference on Thursday that the Pro Bowl thing kind of was bugging him a little bit because I think everyone knows how talented he is and how well he's played the season. But just because of the offense he's on, the other guys, who get a lot of attention, and Aiyuk just being a more quiet, like low key guy, just didn't necessarily get the Pro Bowl attention. And so for him to get those All Pro honors is huge. And he's going into possible summer where he can get an extension this year. And so I'm sure his agent's going to be pumping out the All Pro list to everybody so he can try to get as much money as
Oh yeah.
possible. It's well deserved. And he's got $20 million plus written all over it when it comes to his extension.
And unfortunately for John Lynch and the 49ers front office, there is CeeDee Lamb's contract is up as well. So
True.
does hit Brandon Aiyuk pull the I'm gonna wait to see what CD gets paid and then negotiate my deal? It's gonna be pretty interesting. I know
It is.
like this team is super unselfish and it's not about individual awards, but when you're Brandon Aiyuk and you have the numbers to be selected in the Pro Bowl, you want to be selected in the Pro Bowl. It reminds me of like the Isaiah Thomas's, like I met the criteria, but I wasn't selected.
Absolutely.
That's kind of like Brandon Aiyuk.
I think the conference thing really hurt him because I think for All Pro, 7 out of the 10 receivers came out of the NFC, and obviously you only get 4 wide receiver spots in the Pro Bowl for each conference. And so I feel like that kind of hurt him when it came down to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about trying to retain Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah.
49ers weren't able to retain Adam Peters. It's pretty unreal that they were able to retain him for this long because he's been a very hot commodity. Even gave him the name of assistant general manager just to like make him feel good. Like, hey, dude, stay here with us. Like, I don't know the quite details of what he was, which guys essentially he wanted in the draft. There's obviously whispers out there would say Ambry Thomas, for example, that was his guy. And Ambry Thomas is making him look pretty good right now.
Absolutely.
But it's like, what's your thoughts with Adam Peters going to Washington now?
A couple things, just like you mentioned. First, when it comes to the front office and you talk about like an assistant GM or a president of player personnel that eventually leaves to become a GM, it's really hard to figure out who's the person behind a draft pick or a free agent signing or an in-season trade, right? It's hard to figure out, like, that information just isn't publicly available unless you've got, insiders kind of feeding you the information. It's hard to figure out, like, hey, was Adam Peters behind this pick, or was it John Lynch, or was it a college scout? Was it their college scouting director, or was it Kyle Shanahan? Was it a coach, right? Like, even when we talk about the Brock Purdy pick, and a lot of people say it's Brian Griese or the area scout, Steve Float, that was behind the pick, right? It's hard to tell. So, but clearly with Adam Peters, he's highly respected. He's worked in Denver for John Elway. He's worked in New England for Bill Belichick. He was John Lynch's first hire when he came here in 2017. Highly respected guy, Bay Area through and through. We actually went to the same high school, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, Peters is beloved. And I think a couple of things kind of suggested this move was coming. One, the 49ers extended John Lynch during the season. They gave him a new title, right? He's president of football ops as well as GM and got an extension, presumably with a raise. And so that kind of indicated, like, maybe John Lynch isn't necessarily going anywhere. Even if they were to win the Super Bowl, he might just, keep the TV analyst rumors aside for a couple more seasons. And ultimately, for Adam Peters, you don't necessarily have decision-making power in this organization, right? Kyle Shanahan runs the show. John Lynch, clearly the number 2. And if you're Adam Peters, you're in that mix. But ultimately, you don't have say like those two guys do. And if you have the opportunity to go to Washington, where new ownership, no more toxicity with Dan Snyder, rich owner, right, and Josh Harris, and you get to be the GM, hire the head coach. You have a ton of draft capital, some good young talent. I feel like it's a good opportunity, and so
Bob Myers,
good for him. Yeah,
and
it's true.
They allegedly have a pretty tight relationship, so it's a good start. Like you get to hand pick your next quarterback. I don't think it's Sam Howell. We saw when the 49ers played them some weeks ago. But he gets to go hand pick his quarterback, and
absolutely
no better selection to learn from what happened here with the 49ers going with Trey
Yeah.
Lance, ended up, landing with Mr. Relevant, let's just say.
Yeah.
And this just came in from Joel Corey that Charvarius Ward earned an extra
He did.
$500,000, 250 from the Pro Bowl, and now
Yeah.
250 from the All Pro selection. So salute. That's why you sign incentives. Ask Richard Sherman.
We're not
Um,
pocket watching, but
yeah,
props to Mooney Ward.
definitely not pocket watching. I definitely can't pocket watch NFL players because then I would just be depressed all day
Yeah,
long.
same. Same.
Um, let's go ahead and talk about your ideal matchup for the divisional round as far as who you want the 49ers to face. That may not be reality. We can make picks, after this, but for right now, who do you want the 49ers to play next round? I know my choice, but let's hear yours.
Yeah, so for those listening, obviously the matchup, Bucks Eagles Monday night, you got Rams Lions Sunday night, and then you've got Packers Cowboys Sunday afternoon. And so the 49ers will face one of the Bucks Eagles, the Rams, or the Packers. They can't face the Lions or the Cowboys in this upcoming divisional round just because of the way the seeding works. So it'll be one of those four teams. And I tweeted this out earlier in the week, but basically just kind of looked at their offensive and defensive numbers, kind of at kind of a bird's eye view, just to get an idea of how they've been playing over the back half of the season. And kind of the key takeaways I had: the Rams and the Packers are playing like a top five offense, basically since midway through the season. Matt Stafford's been healthy. Obviously, we know the weapons that they have on the outside with Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. Their run games come alive with Kyren Williams. It's probably the best it's been since they've had Todd Gurley. And then Jordan Love, he's been awesome. And I feel like just because they kind of eked into the playoffs, and he's kind of been up and down, in the early part of the season, he hasn't gotten as much attention, but he's played really, really well. They're both playing like a top five, offensive unit. So they could put up a lot of points if they were to play the 49ers. Defensively, the Packers are, bottom three. So I think that would be the advantage there. The Rams have been playing middle of the road. They've got some talent, some young talent on that side of the ball. And then you flip over to the Bucks and the Eagles. Eagles, I think a lot of people feared coming into the season, right? You just look at their roster, what they were
Yeah.
able to do last season, but defensively they've really fallen off, especially since Matt Patricia's taken over defensive play calling. They've been a bottom two defense. It's been ugly on that side of the ball. They can't tackle. They're not covering a soul. And their offense just doesn't really have an identity with Brian Johnson. And then the middle of the road team is the Bucks. They're not really poor in one area, but they're not really outstanding in any area. Baker Mayfield at quarterback, obviously. They're just kind of your middle of the road NFC South division winner. And so I think if you were ranking those four teams, I would want to play Tampa Bay and then probably Philly, then the Packers, and then the Rams dead last. But I'd like to hear who you think the 49ers should play or who you'd like to see them play.
My choice is Tampa Bay. That's my choice. Like, one, we already have data to go off when they played Tampa Bay in Santa Clara. And Tampa Bay hasn't really, say, surged or got on a hot streak since that game, like, say, the Rams have since week 2, or that the Packers have in their back half of the season. Baker Mayfield had a 76.7 rating that game, 1 TD, 1 interception. Mike Evans was held accountable. He had that touchdown in the first quarter, and then after that, he was just more so a decoy on offense than anything else. Now, Rachaad White is a nice player. He's someone that could have been in the Pro Bowl, but he only averaged 3.3 yards per carry in that game against the 49ers. So they did a great job against him. And that's my ideal matchup. We saw Brock Purdy dominate against that Buccaneers defense in his rookie season, his first start versus Tom Brady in Santa Clara once again. And then that offense managed to put up 27 points in the meeting this year. And I think they left points on the table that game.
I think they did too.
So it's like, that's definitely my go-to pick right there is Tampa Bay. The Packers, what you said defensively, they don't worry me too much. They do have young, talented players that may overachieve and not know that they're overachieving and what they're doing. I had Jaden Reed in fantasy, and the dude was getting like consistently 15 points or more in fantasy. So they're definitely a talented team, but I think if you're going to play against a team like the 49ers and really content. I think you're gonna have to smack them in the mouth and have a solid running game. And Green Bay, they don't scare me in terms of a running offense. Um,
Yeah.
so I like that matchup. I could go through like them all. I think the team that has the most upside for an upset, like don't yell at me, but it's Philly. Like if they're
Really?
if they're healthy enough,
Really?
if they're remember they had the first quarter lead before basically their season folded, not just that game, but their
No, that's
season
true.
folded. Um, if they're able to work Jalen Hurts more as a runner and extend drives on 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 9s, and he's able to pick up 11, 12 yards, I think they have I'm not saying they scare me, but I think they have the most upside for an upset. I don't think it's the Rams. Like that's every say flavor of the month for everybody in the NFC. I think I just go strictly upside. If they're good, if Devontae Smith is good to play, if AJ Brown reposts his Eagle photos back on his Instagram,
That's true.
um, if Jalen Hurts' fingers not bothering him as a passer, they just have the most upside to me. They have a pass rush that can get to the quarterback. They have the most upside. I'm not scared of them by any means, but my ideal matchup is definitely Tampa Bay. I would love to play those guys the second time this year, and that we're essentially walking into the NFC Championship game.
I would send the limo or the private jet to Tampa Bay to bring that team to Santa Clara if I could. I completely agree with you there. I just think the thing with Philadelphia is they just haven't shown any. They just feel gutless the last like month. Ever
Yeah.
since they got whooped by the 49ers. Obviously, they went to Dallas the next week, got their ass kicked. Then they went to
Mm-hmm.
Seattle, kind of lost a heartbreaker there at the end. And then you figured, okay, they got an easy stretch of games coming up. Can they just get right? Then they lose to Arizona at home, and Arizona worked them
Yes.
offensively, outgained them significantly, time of possession, the whole thing. And then they're like, okay, they're going to New York. They always beat up on New York. Like they should be able to pull this out. And nope, they looked flat. They looked lifeless. I just feel like they've kind of lost hope in that coaching staff, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't have the answers. And then you take Hurts' injury. AJ Brown still hasn't practiced this week with a knee injury.
He was
I
not at
honestly think they're
practice
going to
today.
lose. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I honestly think they're going to lose at Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I sneaky think the Bucks are going to win that game. So I think the team with the most upside is the Rams, just like you mentioned. Like everyone's flavor of the month is certainly my flavor this month, just
Hey, it's
because
for a reason. It's for a reason.
you look at just break down numbers, take all that out the window. Which head coach and quarterback scares you the most out of those four? It's Sean
Oh
McVay
yeah.
and Matt Stafford. They've got Super Bowl rings. They did it 2 years ago. They beat the Niners, in a conference championship game. Although the teams are very different, they can just get hot and it can just get weird. And none of these teams should beat the 49ers. The 49ers are going to be pretty big favorites against all
Mm-hmm.
four of these teams at home, coming off of multiple weeks of rest for most of the guys. They should beat all of these NFC teams. I just think Stafford and McVay can get hot. All of a sudden, it's like a weird game in the third quarter where it's like tied and Kyron Williams running all over the place. Puka Nacua is catching touchdowns, and you're like, oh my God, it's divisional round. They're playing with house money. It can just get a little weird. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly can get a little weird. Something to note, 49ers have not faced Puka Nacua and Cooper Cup on the same, on the field at the
That's
same
true.
time this year. Because
That's
week
true.
2, Cooper Cup was on the IR, and then final game of the
Rested.
season, Cooper Cup
Yeah.
didn't suit up again. So they have not faced those two receivers. Well, Stafford didn't even play final game of the season either. So it'll be different for the 49ers. It's not like, oh, we already saw this team, we got to play them again.
That's
Um,
true.
but the reason why I'm not so like I'm not going with flavor of the month, I'm going with mango is
Nothing
because
wrong with
like
mango.
yeah, you're asking a Killer Witherspoon to shut down Brandon Aiyuk, to shut down Debo Samuel. He can't
Absolutely.
even shut down Juwan Jennings. So it's like I just trust the 49ers offense versus that defense
Absolutely.
to outscore the Rams in that game. And as they always say, as long as you put up more points, you're going to beat the other team 100% of the time.
That's an undefeated stat. And like I said, you look at just the defenses in the NFC that are left, especially how they've played in the back half of the season. like none of these four defenses should scare you. Like
Mm-mm.
Philly and the Eagles and the Packers have like a bottom five defense. The
Yes.
Rams and the Bucks probably middle of the road. And the 49ers obviously have a ton of experience playing those teams this season, right? They've played three of those four teams this year outside of the Packers. And so, yeah, I mean, like you said, I think Tampa Bay is the most ideal one. And so if you're a
100%.
49ers fan, you're rooting for the Lions and Cowboys to ideally win on Sunday.
Right.
And then you know that the winner of that Bucks Eagles game on Monday night will come to San Francisco, Santa Clara. They're going to be coming on a short week, right? That
Yep.
game's probably going to be on Sunday. Short
Yep.
week, cross country travel. Like that's a tall order against a rested 49ers team. So that I feel like that's the outcome that I feel like most people would be rooting for.
Absolutely. I didn't even think about the short week. So, yeah, Niners and 6, as they say. Let's go ahead and make some game picks. We were talking about our ideal scenario. We both would
Yeah.
like to play Tampa. Do you think that's going to happen?
I think the one game that could potentially screw that is the Rams Lions. So if we just
You had
kind of
it
go in
right,
order of the
Lambs. You
game,
had it right.
the Lambs. If we just go in order of the games, let's start with Packers Cowboys, which is a Sunday afternoon games. Gonna be like 60 million people watching it probably on Fox. I think the Cowboys are gonna win. I think that offense is gonna be too much for the Packers defense. I think Jordan Love's gonna be able to score. I think it's gonna be one of those high scoring games, but Jordan Love, first playoff start on the road in Dallas is a tough ask. I think the Cowboys win that game. What about you?
Yeah, I think Cowboys win that game as well. You know, they say the last time they played, like Aaron Rodgers owned the Cowboys 9 out of the last 10 meetings or so, and 2-0 in the playoffs. And that last game in 2016, like, remember, Aaron Rodgers needed a toe tap from, I think it
Yeah,
was
Jared
Mike
Cook.
Jared Cook there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jared Cook. He needed that toe tap to go ahead and get over the Dallas Cowboys. While Jordan Love has had a fine season, you know, second most touchdowns because Purdy sat last week, second most
yeah,
touchdowns in the NFL. He came along. He became a
he
guy.
did.
But unfortunately, I don't think their defense have
No.
enough guys. So that's why Cowboys, they're not one and done this year. We do call them divisional and done, but you know that's looking ahead. Yeah, I think Cowboys come away with this one.
Absolutely. And then the night game. This is probably my favorite game on the slate. Sunday night in Detroit. First playoff game they've had in like 32 years. Ford Field is going to be rocking with
Mm-hmm.
Lions fans. Jared Goff playing his old coach in his own team or his old team, and I feel like he really gets to play that revenge card, right? The team that
Right.
discarded him, the coach that basically kind of shat on him on the way out the door. And he gets an opportunity in a playoff game to kind of cement himself as like a Lions legend, right? Their first
Yeah.
playoff win in forever, beating Matt Stafford, the quarterback that they had forever. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a pretty big spot for him, Dan Campbell, and I like the Lions in this spot. I think everyone and their mother is picking the Rams. Everyone thinks like, oh, hottest team. They're 7-1. Even though sneaky, if you look at their schedule, they played some fraudulent teams in there, um, and they've played well. But I just think this Lions offense, especially if they get Sam Laporta, the rookie tight end, back this week, that they're going to be able to score on that Rams defense. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think Dan Campbell's just more aggressive. He's got, they went for it there in Dallas to try to win it. I just think he's going to go all hands on deck to try to win this game, knowing what it means to that fan base and city. And I think they're just going to edge the Rams this week.
Okay. So this is when I do take the flavor of the month, and
That's
and I'm gonna go ahead and take the Rams here, and I just don't trust Detroit yet. Like
fair.
they're applying to be a contender. I'm reviewing their resume. I don't see enough to be like, yes, I'm gonna hire you to be the contender. I just don't see enough.
Absolutely.
Their last, say, playoff team that they beat came in October. Let me find the exact game. It was Tampa Bay, uh, October 15th. They
That's
won
a
in
while.
Tampa Bay 20-6. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games in a row that you have not beat a team that's in the playoffs. during that stretch, they have played teams in the playoffs and they've lost those games. Whether you want to talk about the Cowboys game that he
Yeah,
was eligible or not, I'm going off the final result. The final result
fair.
says the Lions lost.
No, agreed.
Um, and then they lost to the Packers as well, 29-22. And they lost to the Ravens. Remember, 38-6. Those 6 points
Got
were in the
spanked.
fourth quarter. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's like, and those are the three playoff teams they have played since October 15th, 0-3 in that stretch. The Rams are hot right now. They're feeling good. Stafford got a week to rest. Cooper Kupp got a week to rest. Aaron Donald's got a week to rest. And I think the idea with Jared Goff is you want to put pressure in his face. He's going to have it front and center with Aaron Donald. Um, yeah, I think I like the Rams in this one. The biggest thing for the Rams defensively is stopping Amon-Ra from extending drives
yeah,
because he's a hell of a receiver. I know I just talked about
he is.
Ahkello Weatherspoon, but there's ways you could try to bracket Amon-Ra because difference with the Lions is they have Amon-Ra and then bodies.
It's true.
49ers, they got Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings. They're not necessarily bodies like the Lions after wide receiver one. So I think the Rams match up better against the Lions than they do against the 49ers. Obviously, that's why the 49ers are where they are.
It's
And
true.
I'm going to say the Rams here. And I would love to play
Wow.
the Rams. 49ers eliminated the Seahawks last year. Let's do it against the Rams this year.
It would be while that would be wildly entertaining, I think, in the divisional round to see Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, and Kyle Shanahan beat Sean McVay in the playoffs and, end that discussion about the NFC Championship game from a couple years ago. It would just make me a little nervous going into that week, knowing Sean McVay and Matt Stafford are coming with house money, right? Everyone and their
Yeah.
mom's probably going to pick the 49ers in that game. And they've just got guys that have won the Super Bowl that just know how to operate in the playoffs. And I think Kyle Shanahan said this earlier this week. The one thing that scares you in the playoffs is a hot, franchise level top quarterback because those guys can just make plays out of their ass and, score points and just put pressure on you. And so I personally would just would like to avoid that if possible, especially, if you're a
Yeah.
Niners fan, your goal is to see this team go as far as possible in a stress-free manner. Even though I think the Niners would beat the Rams. But yeah, I think if you're a 49ers fan, you're paying close attention to that game because I think it's safe to assume we think that the Cowboys are going to win that first game.
Yep.
And if the Rams win, it'll be the Rams and the Niners in the divisional round. If the Lions win, it'll be either the Eagles or the Bucks in the divisional round. So you're paying real close attention Sunday night to that game. But we'll see. We're both picking different teams here, and
Why do
we'll
you
see
have to
what
scare
happens.
me? Why do you have to try and
I'm just
scare me
saying.
like that, man? Come
I'm just
on.
saying.
Come
I'm
on.
just saying.
Yeah, it is
I've
tough.
been thinking about it all week, and it's like, you want to find kind of the easiest path for the 49ers, and
Oh, for
so
sure.
avoiding having to play the Rams and the Cowboys would probably be the toughest path, I would say,
Mm.
given the teams that are in the mix. And so,
But all
yeah,
right. All right, let's, do a little silver lining here. What's going to set them up to, be challenged to play the Cowboys? Probably a Rams offense than a Buccaneers offense. So,
probably
I won't be mad. I won't be mad if it's
silver
the
lining.
Rams and not the
Silver
Bucks.
lining.
Yeah, the Bucks are my pick, but what's going to challenge? What's going to give them more?
True.
The get right game. What's going to be their get right game? It's probably going to be the Rams better suited to match what the Cowboys are going to do offensively.
For sure. For sure. And then the last game, Monday night, ESPN, Eagles at Bucks. I think the Eagles are favored by a couple points right now. Who are you taking in that one? Because that one, yeah, hardest one to pick probably.
Yeah, I'll be short and sweet since we're running here against time. I'm gonna say the Buccaneers are gonna win. Um, like I said, I think the Eagles have the most upside, but it's not going to be that game. The Buccaneers, if I look at their recent history, like they went in Lambeau and shredded the Packers. They looked fantastic that game. Their backs against the wall. They went ahead and shut out the Panthers, which that's not a tall task to ask for. But a shutout when you don't even allow a field goal in the NFL is impressive. They beat the Jaguars. Now Trevor Lawrence is not 100%, but it was still an impressive 30-12 win. So I'm going Buccaneers.
I agree with you. I like that coaching staff. Todd Bowles, Dave Canales, the offensive coordinator. They've got a ton of talent. I think they are just more in rhythm, in tune than the Eagles, who are banged up. Coaching staff looks weird. A ton of chaos to finish out the season. Just feels like they're one and done. I think the Bucs come out. They're at home Monday night, and they find a way to win this game and advance to the next round. And I think the Eagles fire Nick Sirianni.
Ooh, ooh, wow. Okay. That's a hot one. That would be interesting. But
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind it. That talk about the most punchable face in the NFL. It's
100%.
he's got to be up there. How do you like that, Chiefs fans? Like what? That was the
It's been one
dorkiest
and
thing I've
five
ever
since then.
seen. Yeah.
1-5 since then.
So I know I've seen people go 2-5. It's not. No, that game was already final. That game was already
Yeah,
final.
yeah.
1-5 since then. So hey, we're gonna do this next week. Next week is going to be a divisional game rather than having a bye week. So buckle up. Let's watch some football. Subscribe, comment who you want the 49ers to play, comment who you think they're going to play. And let's get on with it. Peace.